The sound of rain pattered against the old tin roof. Inside a small room lit only by the warm glow of a desk lamp. A man sat motionless in a wooden chair. His calloused hands trembled as they gripped a worn leather-bound notebook. On the cover, a child's messy handwriting was still there. "My diary. Do not read without permission." His eyes were bloodshot, his cheeks hollow, his teeth clenched as if trying to hold back a sob. Then, he opened the notebook. The first few pages were filled with clumsy handwriting and childish doodles, a drawing of father and son laughing by a riverside. A small house with smoke curling from the chimney. And words full of innocent dreams. "When I grow up, I will protect Dad." Michael Carter smiled faintly, but the smile faded the moment he turned a few more pages. The further he read, the heavier his eyes grew with sorrow. Until the final page appeared. Only a few short lines. But they pierced straight into his heart like a knife. "Dad, if tomorrow I am not here anymore, please do not be sad. I have discovered the secret of the house, but I am afraid they will come before I can tell you." Michael's fingers froze, shaking violently. Veins bulged on the back of his hands. He lifted his head, his eyes seemed to have lost all light, leaving only confusion and unbearable pain. Suddenly, a strong gust of wind howled through the gap in the door. Lifting the tattered curtain, a small piece of paper slipped out from the diary. Tumbling across the floor, Michael bent down to pick it up. It was a map, marked with a military symbol only someone who had served on the battlefield would recognize. The sound of a flashback filled his mind, gunfire, explosions, the voices of comrades calling his name through the smoke. He saw himself, back then, in a uniform that reeked of gunpowder, cradling a newborn baby in his arms, and swearing to protect him with everything he had. The image dissolved back into the present. Outside, the rain grew heavier. Michael clutched the diary tightly against his chest, his lips whispering like a new vow. "Ethan, I will find out the truth." Michael Carter, 38 years old, was a former soldier who had spent nearly 15 years in the military. He had once been one of the best snipers, participating in countless dangerous missions in conflict zones that the media never spoke of. Once, during a hostage rescue, he had thrown himself in front of a burst of gunfire to shield a teammate. The long scar across his left shoulder was still there, a testament to that sacrifice. When he came home, he thought he would be welcomed by his family, a warm embrace from his wife, a bright smile from his son. But reality was far colder than he imagined. His wife had left, leaving only divorce papers with a short, dry sentence: "I am tired. You are no longer the man I once loved." Her family treated him like a useless man, someone stuck in the past, unable to earn enough money, someone who did not know how to adapt. The only one who stayed was his 8-year-old son, Ethan, a quiet boy with eyes that always seemed older than his years. Ethan had never blamed his father, even though their life was confined to a shabby rented room in the outskirts of town. Every day, Michael took on heavy labor, hauling cargo, fixing vehicles, delivering goods, anything to pay Ethan's school fees and buy him a few comic books. Many nights, he stayed awake, watching his son sleep, thinking about his days on the battlefield. He had once saved an entire unit, had once accepted death as something inevitable, and yet now, he felt like nothing in the eyes of those who used to call him a hero. But then, a phone call on a rainy morning changed everything. A lawyer he had never met informed him that he had inherited a house from his late grandfather, a man Michael rarely spoke of. The house was in a remote rural village, abandoned for years. People said it was worthless, nothing but rotting walls and a broken roof. But for Michael, it was an opportunity, a new beginning, a place where he and his son could escape the contemptuous stares of those around them. He did not yet know that this very place would open the door to a story far bigger than anything he had ever faced. On the first day they arrived, Michael stood silently in front of the rusted iron gate. Weeds grew up to his knees, about 2 feet tall, or roughly 60 centimeters, creeping into the cracks of the brick walkway. The moss-covered walls surrounding the house seemed to hide something, a mixture of decay and unease. Ethan stood beside him, eyes wide, looking around with a mix of excitement and caution. "Dad, does anyone live here?" he asked softly. Michael ruffled his son's hair and forced a smile. From now on, this is our home. They stepped inside. The door hinges groaned as if offering a creaky old greeting. It was a 2-story house with a gray, weathered tile roof. Many of the glass window panes were cracked or fogged with dust. The air smelled of mold mixed with rotting wood. On the wall hung several yellowed black and white photos. One showed a man in a military uniform, eyes stern and unyielding. It was Colonel Thomas Carter, Michael's grandfather. The living room was covered in a thick layer of dust. The hardwood furniture was scratched and battered, as if untouched for decades. In one corner stood a locked bookcase. Through the glass, Michael could faintly see hardbound books, a few wooden boxes, and a rolled leather tube like the kind used to hold maps. Michael opened a window, letting sunlight sweep across the room. It revealed small carvings on the wooden floor frame. He crouched down, but most of them were hidden under grime. Only a few strange symbols were visible. Symbols that resembled the military codes he once used in the special forces. Ethan ran around exploring. In the kitchen, he discovered a small hatch in the floor made of steel, secured by an old padlock. "Dad, what is down here?" the boy's voice echoed. Michael tried to pull, but the hatch did not budge. The lock was rusted, as if it had not been opened for years. That night, they laid a mattress in the middle of the living room. The sound of nighttime rain drummed on the roof. Michael lay listening to his son's steady breathing, but his mind was restless. The images of those carvings, the locked bookcase, and the hatch beneath the kitchen floor kept replaying in his head. The next morning, as Michael was sweeping the front porch, an elderly neighbor walked over, leaning on his cane. His eyes squinted, studying Michael as though trying to place him. "You must be the grandson of Colonel Carter, right?" the old man asked. Michael nodded. The old man hesitated, then said in a low voice, "This house. There are things no one dares to talk about. Many have entered here, but few have stayed long. Your grandfather, he was not just a soldier." Before Michael could ask more, the old man shook his head and walked away. Those unfinished words lingered in Michael's mind like a thorn. In the following days, Michael began repairing the house. Every time he hammered a nail, sawed wood, or moved furniture, he stumbled upon odd details, a section of wall that sounded hollow, identical carvings appearing in different places, and even scraps of paper with handwriting on them. Ethan was more eager than ever. The boy started sketching a floor plan of the house in his diary, marking every strange spot. When Michael asked about it, Ethan just smiled and said, "You will see, Dad." On the 5th night, Michael was awakened by a faint sound in the kitchen. He went downstairs and found Ethan sitting alone, flashlight trained on the hatch's rusty padlock, holding a ring of old keys he had taken from the bookcase drawer. The boy's eyes shone. "Dad, I think there is something important of Grandpa's down here." Michael stood still, a mix of curiosity and worry washing over him. He had no idea that this moment was the first step into a story that would change both of their lives forever. 3 days after Ethan found the key to the hatch, things began to turn strange. Michael noticed unfamiliar cars driving slowly past the road to the house. Each time he stepped out onto the porch, they sped away. At night, beams of flashlight flickered somewhere among the trees along the fence. That afternoon, while father and son were stacking firewood in the yard, 3 men in black suits appeared. The one in front was tall and thin, his slicked back hair glistening. He walked straight up, offering a thin smile as he held out a business card. "We would like to buy this house. Triple the market price. What do you say?" Michael glanced at it but did not take the card. "Sorry, the house is not for sale." The man kept his smile, but his eyes grew cold. "You know, in places like this, keeping something you should not keep can cause trouble." The vague threat thickened the air. Ethan's hand tightened around his father's. Michael kept his composure. "I know what I am doing. Please leave." Before leaving, the tall man leaned in and whispered, "Do you think you have escaped the past, Michael? We know everything, even what happened on the battlefield back then." When they disappeared beyond the trees, Michael stood frozen, blood pounding in his temples. The threat was not just about the house, it was about his honor and the past he had buried. That night, Ethan could not sleep. He whispered, "Dad, I think they want what is in the basement. If it is important, We should find it before they do. Michael nodded. His son was right, but what he feared most was the danger this could bring to Ethan. The next morning, as Michael was preparing tools to break the lock, an envelope slid under the door. Inside was a photo of Ethan walking home from school, clearly taken without their knowledge. Beneath it was a note. Sell the house, or lose more than you think. Anger surged through Michael. He had been in the special forces. He knew how to deal with threats. But now, this was not just about him, it was about protecting his son. That afternoon, Michael decided to attempt the hatch. He and Ethan worked together, prying at the padlock. The sound of grinding metal filled the kitchen, dust swirling in the air. Finally, the door gave way, revealing a wooden staircase descending into darkness. A damp, musty smell rose up, mixed with the scent of old machine oil. They stepped down, flashlight beams sweeping across shelves lined with empty ammunition boxes, military backpacks, and a safe. On its lid was the insignia of the Special Forces unit Michael had once served in, along with a strange number. Before he could try to open it, footsteps echoed from upstairs. The hatch slammed shut. They heard footsteps moving across the floor above them. Someone pulled out a chair, pacing around the living room. Michael gestured for Ethan to stay quiet, pressing his ear to the wall. Faint voices filtered through. Check everywhere. He must have the key somewhere. Hurry, we do not have much time. Michael guided Ethan to the darkest corner of the basement, hiding him behind wooden crates. His heart pounded, but his mind stayed sharp. He reached into his pocket and pulled out a folding knife, an old habit from years of survival training. The sound of rummaging went on for several minutes before stopping. The front door shut. Only the patter of rain on the porch remained. Both of them exhaled in relief. But they knew the men would be back. And next time, it might not just be a threat. That night, Michael sat alone at the kitchen table. In front of him was the safe. He knew that opening it would give him answers, but also pull him and Ethan into a new battle. From the stairs, Ethan's voice came quietly. Dad, I found the code. It has been in my diary all along. Michael looked up, surprised. The boy stepped forward, diary in hand, flipping to the last page, one his father had never read. Between scattered sentences, a series of numbers were written. 197524. I figured it out by putting together the symbols around the house. Ethan explained. I did not tell you sooner because I wanted to be sure. Michael nodded, placing his hand on the safe's dial. Each click of the numbers made his pulse quicken. When the final number aligned, a dry, metallic sound echoed. The safe opened. Inside were no gold bars, no stacks of cash. Instead, there was a thick folder stamped Top Secret, along with several yellowed photographs. Michael pulled one out. It showed a group of Special Forces soldiers. Among them was his grandfather, Colonel Thomas Carter, and another face he recognized instantly. The tall, thin man in the black suit who had come to the house just days earlier. The documents inside revealed a shocking story. Colonel Thomas Carter had once been the commander of a covert Special Forces unit tasked with counterintelligence operations. During their final mission, the unit had seized irrefutable evidence of a massive weapons smuggling network, one aided by several high-ranking officials. But before the evidence could be made public, many members of the unit disappeared, and the proof was hidden away. Somehow, Colonel Carter had escaped and safeguarded the entire file, the very one now sitting before Michael. One question echoed in his mind. If Grandpa kept this secret his whole life, why leave it to me? And how do they know I have it? Ethan spoke softly. Dad, the other day I overheard some people talking outside in the yard. They called you, the heir. They are afraid you will finish what Grandpa never got to do. Before Michael could respond, a loud banging rattled the front door. The tall man's cold voice called out, Mr. Carter, we know you have found it. Do not make this difficult. Open the door, hand it over, and this will be the end of it. Ethan clutched his diary tightly, whispering, Dad, we cannot give it to them. Michael's eyes hardened. He quickly stuffed the folder into an old military backpack, pulled Ethan down into the basement, and locked the hatch from the inside. Upstairs, the sound of breaking glass rang out. Heavy footsteps landed on the floor. Michael knew they had entered. From the basement, A muffled thud came from the hatch. They were forcing the lock. Michael dug through the pile of old military gear. The pistol was still there, along with several magazines. He did not want to use violence, but he could not let them take Ethan. A small explosion sounded. The lock gave way. The hatch swung open. The tall man descended, followed by two large, broad-shouldered men. He smiled faintly. "You know, Michael, we do not want to hurt anyone. But that file cannot be in your hands." Michael leveled the pistol at them, his voice like steel. "My grandfather kept it to protect this country. I will do the same. Take one more step, and I will consider it an act of war." Silence stretched tight as a wire. Then, from the distance, the wail of police sirens grew louder. The tall man's expression tightened. He signaled for his men to retreat. "We will meet again, Michael. Next time, it will not be this simple." They vanished into the night. Michael exhaled, feeling cold sweat trickle down his back. Ethan ran in from the backyard, throwing his arms around his father. Michael held him close, knowing that from this moment on, nothing would be the same. The backpack did not just contain proof of his grandfather's past, it was now the ticket into a new battle. One that would decide both their honor and their safety. By the next morning, the house looked as though it had just survived a storm. Shards of glass glittered in the sunlight, and the faint smell of cigarette smoke lingered in the air. Michael quickly cleaned up and hid the backpack in a secret compartment under the stairs, a place only he and Ethan knew about. The elderly neighbor came over, leaning on his cane, his eyes full of worry. "Who were they?" he asked. Michael replied quietly, "People who are afraid of the truth." The old man glanced around, then lowered his voice. "Your grandfather was the same. Many times, I saw strangers lurking around. He told me, one day, the truth will demand to be seen. If you are holding that file now, you must finish what he started." Michael nodded. He knew reporting it to the local police was not enough. The file was too big. Reaching people who could bend the law. He needed a public stage and someone trustworthy. He called Jack Miller, an old teammate who was now an investigative journalist. Jack owed Michael his life from a rescue mission years ago. Jack's voice over the phone was fast and firm. "Do not move. Do not touch anything. I am on my way." A few hours later, Jack arrived with a young attorney named Rachel Adams. They photographed and logged everything, making 2 encrypted copies of the files. Rachel warned, "If we hand this straight to an agency, it could disappear. We go public first, through the press, the law, and the people." Michael looked at Ethan, who nodded with the quiet determination of a true partner. That afternoon, Jack published a teaser article on his independent investigation site, Special Forces File of Colonel Thomas Carter and the Weapons Network. The story did not mention full names but included partial evidence and old black and white photos. The reaction was immediate: comments, shares, and messages from veterans who recognized faces in the pictures. Memories came flooding back, and people began piecing together stories long buried. The truth started to take shape. That night, headlights appeared outside the gate once more. This time, it was not just the tall man. A pickup truck and 2 sedans rolled in, and men moved in formation like a trained unit. Michael sent Ethan to his room with a warning. "Remember the signal." The boy clutched the emergency whistle hanging from his neck. The front door swung open. The tall man stepped inside, polite in a way that was more chilling than any threat. "You have made a foolish choice," he said. "Leaking those files has cost people their jobs, or worse." Michael stood tall, not drawing his gun. "It was not me who leaked them. The truth finds its own way." The man smirked and signaled his men to search the house. In minutes, they reached the staircase, directly above the hidden compartment. Michael's expression shifted. The tall man tilted his head. "You think we do not know where a soldier hides his things?" Just as one of them bent to open the step, a sharp whistle blasted from the backyard, Ethan's signal. From outside the gate, the glow of flashlights appeared, the villagers, led by the old neighbor. They carried sticks, tools, and determination. Down the road, police lights flashed red and blue. Jack was streaming live on social media, his voice urgent. "We are at the home of former soldier Michael Carter, where a group of unidentified men have broken in." The tall man hesitated, clearly not expecting the battlefield to open up in broad daylight and in front of hundreds of watching eyes. Michael made a quick decision. If they wanted exposure, they would get it. He stepped forward, opened the stair compartment, pulled out the backpack, and held it high in front of Jack's camera. "This is the evidence my grandfather left behind about a criminal network," Michael declared. "They wanted to erase the truth. I will hand it to the law in front of everyone here." The men in black froze. Rachel Adams stepped into view, her voice clear and firm. "The scene is being recorded with community witnesses present. Any attempt to take this would be considered a crime in progress." Murmurs rippled through the crowd as the villagers closed in, tightening the circle around the intruders. The tall man looked at Michael with a flicker of strange regret. "You are more like him than I thought. But you do not understand, some doors, once opened, can never be closed," Michael replied. "They should have been opened long ago." The police sirens grew louder, pulling into the yard. The men in black backed away, leaving only a parting warning. The game has only just begun. That night, Jack's full investigative report went live. The key documents were published with verification, concealing the names of living witnesses. Rachel filed formal submissions to the prosecutor's office and an independent oversight committee. The story exploded across the media. Faces from the photographs were summoned for questioning. The name of Colonel Thomas Carter, once forgotten, was now spoken again with respect. The next day, in front of the weathered old house, a group of veterans gathered. They brought with them faded medals and letters yellowed with age. One man, his hands trembling, gripped Michael's firmly. "Colonel Carter saved my life back in the 70s. I owe him everything. Today, I came to say, he never betrayed us." Tears welled in Michael's eyes. Ethan stood beside him, his head held high. Local authorities assigned officers to guard the property temporarily. A representative from the State Museum proposed turning the house into a memorial site, preserving the basement and displaying the artifacts to tell the story of a generation that had fought in silence. Michael looked at the mossy porch, the cracked window panes, and the black and white photo of his grandfather on the wall, and for the first time, he saw the house as more than a shelter. It was a vessel for dignity. The bitter rumors about Michael began to fade. The press covered his forgotten acts of valor, interviewing former comrades who confirmed how he had shielded a teammate with his own body. Once dismissed as a man living in the past, he was now seen as the heir to his family's legacy, protecting not just borders, but the truth itself. That night, father and son sat together on the porch. The wind carried the scent of damp earth after rain. "Dad, did I scare you?" Ethan asked quietly. Michael hugged him. "Yes, but I am far more proud than afraid." The boy tilted his head. "So, are we leaving this place?" Michael looked into the garden, once lit by secretive flashlights, now calm and quiet, and at the basement door sealed for restoration. "No, this is our home, and it is the story of many others too." The next morning, a new wooden sign hung at the gate. "Colonel Thomas Carter House, Special Forces Memorial, temporary." Things were still messy, but people had already begun stopping by, leaving wildflowers and small notes. "Thank you for saying what needed to be said." Michael knew the legal fight would be long. The network behind it all would not give up easily. But he also knew that once the truth was out in the open, it had the strongest ally of all, the memory of the people. He squeezed Ethan's hand. In that moment, he felt alive, not as a shadow returning from the battlefield, but as a father who had protected his son, and as a soldier who had safeguarded a legacy. From deep within, he whispered as if answering his grandfather's letter, "I have spoken, Grandpa. The rest will be for the law and the people to finish." Late in the day, the sunset poured warm gold over the faded roof. Light filtered through the leaves. Dancing on the porch, Michael leaned back against the wooden pillar. Ethan sprawled beside him, head resting on his father's leg, playing with a strand of dry grass. No more footsteps lurking, no headlights sweeping the windows, only the sound of late summer cicadas and the earthy scent after the noon rain. Michael spoke softly, almost to himself. "You know, Ethan, some things are worth more than safety. That is the truth, and once you face it, only then can you truly live." Ethan stayed silent, but his small hand gripped his father's tightly. In the boy's eyes, Michael saw a reflection of his younger self, stubborn, determined, but now guided by love and trust. From the distance came the sound of a bicycle bell. The old neighbor stopped at the gate, waving, leaving a bag with baked goods and ripe bananas. For the two of you to have for dinner. Today is a good day, so you should eat well, he said with a raspy chuckle. Michael took the bag, thanking him. He knew that no matter how hard the road ahead might be, he was no longer alone. His grandfather's story, his own, and Ethan's had now become part of the whole village, of those who believed the past was not meant to be forgotten, but to light the present. The sun sank behind the trees, its last rays shining on the photo of Colonel Carter in the living room. Michael stepped inside, straightened the frame, and said quietly to the stern face in the picture, "I did it, Grandpa." Then he returned to the porch, sitting beside Ethan. Together, they watched the sky turn deep purple. In that moment, without words, they knew they had crossed a threshold, from fear and doubt to trust and freedom. A soft breeze carried the scent of wildflowers from the forest's edge. Michael took a deep breath and asked quietly, as if speaking to the audience beyond the scene, "If one day, the person you love most kept a secret from you, would you have the courage to open it?" The screen faded to black, leaving only the sound of the wind and an image of their hands clasped together. The screen lit up again, showing Ethan's diary on the old wooden table. The last page lay open, the child's handwriting still there, and beneath it, a tiny red handprint, a promise from a son to his father. A warm voice narrated, "Every family has stories that only those within can truly understand. Some secrets are kept to protect, and some need to be spoken to set us free." Michael chose to face it, not only to clear the past, but to give his son a future untouched by shadows. The image shifted to father and son sweeping leaves in the yard. Ethan laughed, and Michael looked at him with relief in his eyes. The details, the freshly painted gate, the new memorial room sign, hinted at a new chapter beginning. The narrator's voice continued, "And you? If one day you discovered that someone you love had kept a secret for years, what would you do? Stay silent out of fear of change? Or open it, face it, and walk together toward the truth?" The words appeared on the screen with a gentle musical score. Share your story in the comments. Your answer might be the light for someone still living in the dark.